This is yet another edition of the League of the Genuine Conversations with Fred Muwema. I'm your host. Last week, we summarized our conversations around SCN at 5 years, and we did get some feedback. Some of you are asking, what are those things that we have done? Probably you did see a lot of the stuff we said we've done. You need to understand that fighting counterfeits or fake services or products is a very complex thing that requires all of us. In the past, we used to do a lot of enforcement and legal measures, arrest, impounding of fake products. But we realized that you can not only use one method, which is legal action, arrest, and you succeed. So that's why we came up with the idea of including behavior change, mindset change as one of the ways in which we can get you, the consumer, to understand the concealed dangers of counterfeits so that you can be able not to provide a market for the counterfeiter. Remember, we have counterfeits on the market, we have fakes on the market, because some of us could be providing a market. So it is not so much about we've got this volume of fake goods, we've destroyed this. It is also so much about helping you, the consumer, you, the stakeholder, to understand these dangers. And so one of the ways that we feel we are moving in this direction is to do sensitization, is to do awareness. So as far as it goes, we feel it is very important, the consumers as the front line, to have information. So this segment, this League of the Genuine deals with dissemination of information, which is a major plus in any fight of any war of any kind. So this week, we shall begin a new chapter dealing with electronics, dealing with fake electronic gadgets, electricals, fake services in that area. And we are pleased to have in the studio people who will be telling us something about fake telephone services. In this case specifically, fake phone repair services. We do have more than 25 million subscribers in this country. Some of you have 2 or 3 phones, meaning that we could have 50 million handsets or even 60 million mobile phone handsets. Now, many of you, I am sure, have visited a repair center. Many of them are in the form of service centers, either by MTN or Airtel. And I would like to tell you that we've received some information that there is a lot going on at these service centers, at these repair centers, that actually could turn out to be improper or unlicensed or a fake service, to put it in simple terms. So I have 2 of the many young people who have approached us, who have approached our platform seeking for help. These 2 gentlemen represent the others. We have on the extreme right, Mr. Lukiza. Mr. Lukiza, you're welcome.
Thank you, Fred, for having me.
Lukiza Martin. Yeah. He's a device technician, a former device technician who has worked for both Airtel, UTL, MTN through phone doctors. You'll be hearing phone doctors a lot in the conversation today. And next to him, a colleague of his, another young man called Mr. Tumusiime. You are welcome, Richard Tumusiime. Mr. Richard Tumusiime has also been a technician. So they are here to discuss, and please listen attentively. They are here to discuss what could be going wrong in the phone repair sector. And since most of us have phones, I think it is important to pay attention. So I'll start with you, Martin, Lukiza.
Yes, please.
You did tell us off air that you have been engaged with, or you are engaged with a company called Phone Doctors.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit how the engagement began and what you were hired to do there.
Yeah, like you said, my name is Martin Lukiza, and I am 28 years old. Started working for Phone Doctors Uganda in the year 2015. I got to know Phone Doctors through a friend of mine that was working with the Airtel Service Centre. Used to be on Plaza Building, Kampala
What does
Road.
Phone Doctors do?
Yeah, Phone Doctors is a company that offers technical services to telecommunications service providers, including MTN Uganda, Airtel Uganda, and Uganda Telecom.
So what technical service does it offer specifically?
Specifically, we worked in service centers, and we would receive software issues. Clients would come with their devices having software issues, including software updates, maybe network unlocking, data transfer, you back up from one phone to the other. And yeah, ideally
I
that's
have been to the service centers, and I have seen there's a booth.
Yes.
There are several booths, SIM cards, phone repair, but
Yeah.
I've not seen Phone Doctors in either Airtel or MTN when we checked. So where do the Phone Doctors sit? Do they sit at that part with the phone repair?
Yes, now there is a section in the service center that is labeled device technician. It's up there. It's where we used to sit and operate and do our work.
And do your work.
Yes.
Richard, the Phone Doctors that we are dealing with, and by the way, Phone Doctors will have a chance we think they need to come on set to explain or help us understand, clarify some of the issues you'll be talking about. But our investigation team, Richard, in preparation for this program, tried to find the address or location of Phone Doctors, and we were directed somewhere on level 1, Equatorial Mall. But what they found on the ground was an office or a shop, a suite with a signage of Huawei Technologies. Is that the location of the Phone Doctors you have worked with?
Yeah. That is it exactly. But it's like when they rented that office, they never put like a signpost. All they do, I think they used what we call footprints. They used to follow footprints. But when you enter inside, you see a signage of Huawei, Techno, HTC. Yeah, they mostly put up the phones which are so common here in Kampala.
And then they put the branding outside on the shop. So are you saying Phone Doctors conceals its identity? Even in the service centers, there's no Phone Doctors. Even at Equatorial, there's no Phone Doctors. There's no signage.
Yeah. When you enter into a service center, you just see only a device technician. That's where you find a technician, whereby you can easily identify those technicians from what they are putting on. That's when you can easily tell if this is a person from Phone Doctor, depending on the uniform they are putting it on. Because we find a uniform bearing a company's logo at the same time Phone Doctor's logo. That's when but when you enter, the only general one is device technician.
Okay, now you gentlemen, you have worked with Phone Doctors in the service centers
Yes.
of MTN and Airtel.
Correct.
We want on this program to inform the viewers what actually goes on there that you feel that the viewers need to know. But I'll start in relation to their phones and the safety of their gadgets and information on the gadgets. So, but I would like to start by asking you, Martin.
Yes.
Just walk me in a minute. The process of getting employed or getting to work with Phone Doctors. What is the process like? Are jobs advertised? Minimum qualifications advertised out there? What are the minimum qualifications? What is the remuneration like?
Okay. Thank you, Fred. Now, the recruitment process to begin with, it is not advertised or publicized. Most of the technicians working for these companies, they are connected, reference. Like in my case, I got to know that this company exists and it recruits for service providers through a friend, childhood
There's
friend.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong
So
with that.
what is wrong with the terms of service?
Yeah,
that
now
you
the terms of
complain
service. Now, when I approached the offices of phone doctors, applying for the job, what I expected is not what
What do
I
you go
found.
through? What? Just take us through the highlights.
The
of,
highlights.
Working at phone doctors from
Okay.
beginning and up to the time you get in.
Okay, from the beginning, when you go to the offices to find out the requirements, what they need, like you take an application form later with you, they ask for, you usually buy in, you have to pay some money, a given amount of money, between 500,000 to 1.5, depending. You have to,
Paying for what?
you pay to buy into the company to get a job.
Richard,
But
did that happen to you as well?
Yeah. Because I remember I paid 1.5, but in installments.
But wait, Richard, you are looking for a job
Mm.
so that you can earn. You're a young man, you've been on the street, and your employer, before they can take you on, ask you for money.
Yeah, I think they do it in a line of like taking advantage of people being unemployed. They know you're desperate to work.
So you paid 1.5.
I paid 1.5.
Was it receipted?
You know, they usually indicate that you are paying for maybe uniform, things like that. It's
the tools.
disguised. It's disguised as it is not directly indicated
Yeah,
that you are paying for a job to join the company.
Okay, so what else do you pay for?
Because, let me clarify on that. They say you are paying this money, we are going to give you uniform, tools, but then instead, you are the one who provided yourself with those tools which you paid for.
Yeah, none of what they promise, they actually provide.
Understand?
So you pay to be considered. Are there situations where you pay and then you're not given the job?
I don't think that's ever happened to anyone, not that I've met.
Once you pay, that is like a direct
And wait,
transfer.
and you pay this at that service center we see for MTN or Airtel or UTL
You pay it at the main office.
At phone doctors' offices, yes.
at Equatoria.
Yeah, in my case, I paid to the technical director, Maxwell Mabirizi.
Yeah, I think it's the same guy who receives all
Okay, you pay and then you pay for the uniform and then they
Yes.
give you
You
tools
pay-
to work.
You pay for the uniform, you pay for a name tag, you pay for an ID, but they do not provide, because in my case, when I paid, I only got a uniform.
Can you talk about the wages? What were they paying you?
Actually, we are not paid. We are the people who instead of pay for doctor. After you have been placed somewhere in a service center, the way we study, you have a target to meet.
Richard, I want to advise. In this country, it's illegal to have forced unpaid labor. Okay, so when you're saying such a statement, I want you to know that it's very heavy, and so you need to be sure about what you're saying, and it's a crime for anybody to use somebody without paying wages. So can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, we would pay.
You paid your employer.
I paid my employer to get a job, but then instead it was me who was paying, because
You used to give your employer a monthly
remittance.
remittance.
Yeah, if
Sure,
I can.
did that happen to you?
Yeah, it did happen. It did happen because Maxwell made it very clear that the company survives on remittance. So when we
The
pay,
company phone doctors survives on remittance. To who?
yes, to
Does it pay to the?
They tell us
well,
there is a part they give to those companies where you are placed to. If you're in like MTN, then we say we pay ground rate with MTN.
To
So,
MTN or
for us, we
Airtel?
don't know
On Airtel,
government,
yes.
they did, we don't know the
So how much were you paying, Martin? When you started paying, how much were you paying?
I was paying 1.5 million
Every
monthly,
month?
yeah.
And how much salary were you receiving every month?
In 2 installments, because we would pay that remittance over 2 weeks, and we weren't getting salaries. We had a target to meet, but we weren't getting salaries.
Yeah. I think for them, they
Guys, are
think...
you serious? So you mean you pay to get a job, you
Yes.
pay for the uniform,
Yes.
you pay for the badge, then when
Yes.
you start working, you
You
pay
get
your
the limit.
employer,
Yeah,
You pay the
get
employer,
limit.
and then
correct.
you get what?
For them, they know we make... That's how I perceived it. They know we make a lot of money, so they think out of giving them that money which you them, they know we have saved something for you. So they don't care whether in a certain month you have gained or you haven't gained. For them, all they want is that remittance, that is it.
And interestingly, when they put you in a certain service center, they do not audit, they do not maybe do some research to find out how much you make. And at the end of the month, they do not collect because we issue job cards and receipt books. Like when you come into the service center and you need any of our services, we write your details, your names, the device on the job card, we sign, you take a copy. So we fix the phone or the device. So when you come back to collect it, you pay cash, we take back the job card and issue you a receipt book. But the receipt books and the job cards, they are not recalled by the companies to make an audit.
Okay, gentlemen, let's just clarify.
Yes.
Lukiza, you worked in which service centers and in which years?
First of all, in 2015, I was placed as a subordinate at UT, Uganda Telecom Service Centre, that used to be at GEM, Lugogo Mall. Yeah, I worked there. Then I moved to Smart Telecom. There was Smart Telecom headquarters at Clement Hill. For the year 2016, I worked at Uganda Telecom Business Centre.
Where is that?
It's on Telephone House, just behind.
Wales.
Yeah, and from there, I moved to MTN Acacia Mall.
The service center at Acacia Mall.
Yes, from 2018 up to September 2019.
That's where you stopped and yourself?
Yeah, I also started from UTL at Oasis Mall by then. 2017 September, I switched to Airtel.
They took you to Airtel, Acacia Mall.
Acacia Mall.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. From 2017 up to 2020, July. 2020, like in June. Then from June, I switched to One Peo Avenue Airtel Service Center, where I worked for 1 month. And I quit.
So, now you have worked in service centers of MTN, of Airtel, of UTL, Smart Telecom.
Yeah.
But you say you were recruited by phone doctors.
Yes.
But you are working in the premises of MTN or Airtel or UTL in their service centers. How come? How come were you employees of these telecom companies?
I did not get a chance to look at or even to get much information about the arrangement, the association between the two companies, the service providers and phone doctors. But what I know is most of these telecommunications companies hire outsourced services. So the technical department in the service center, which is phone doctors, hired were from phone doctors, a company. And then I remember the people working at the tills were from Exquisite Solutions. So the arrangement ideally is outsourcing services.
So if a member of the public brought their phone for
Yes.
repair, it had an issue,
Yes.
were they able to distinguish or differentiate between phone doctor employee or MTN employee? Would the member of the public know? Or would they get the impression that this is an Airtel service, for example?
It's difficult for the client to tell because you would find almost everyone dressed in identical uniform.
So you had identical uniform?
Yes.
The phone repairers of Phone World?
Yes.
And the staff
and
of
the
Airtel and MTN.
the tellers,
The look
and
was
the
the same.
and the sales people. Yes, it was the same.
Yeah, if it would be the same when you talk of color. But then if it's red on Monday, if you're putting on red on Monday, we'll put on red. Though our uniform had our company logo from Doctor. But then what would be put on the name tag would be the company logo and that specific service center where you work. If it is MTN, you find yourself with a
So
logo.
did you ever have on your badge the logo of the telecom company?
Yes, that is correct, Richard. If you remember, we used to sometimes put on company uniform, company T-shirts.
T-shirts, yeah.
Like on Fridays, we would
Company t-shirts.
company
so an
T-shirts.
Airtel t-shirt.
Yes.
In case of any promotion.
Yeah, that doesn't have anything like phone doctors.
Yeah.
Company, strictly company. Yeah.
Generally, it's hard unless if you go deep into finding out, but it is hard for a client to tell, I'm not part of.
So anyway, viewers, the reason we are interrogating this subject is because mobile telephone services is one of the biggest growth industries in this part of the world, and it affects so many millions of people. And of course, we shall ask the telecoms also to explain, because at SCN we understand that a telecommunications license does not include a repair of phones service. It's basically telecommunications. How that is done, we really need to find out. And since we are investigating fake services in the telephone sector, we see this as a candidate for a service that is not regular, a service that is not proper. Did you people get any specialized training? What's your level of education? Are these people are they graduates, the technicians? Are there any specific qualifications that they have, or you get somebody off the street and they go and start repairing?
Yeah, like I mentioned, the mandatory or the major requirement for joining the company is a certain amount of money that has to be paid. Now, for qualification, they ask for it, but it is not necessarily mandatory, because I for one, my highest level is A level, and a couple of short courses in the technical field. I did some, but most of my colleagues, some were just A level, leavers, and others were even O level. Some it was difficult to tell that they even had
Any
O-level.
qualifications?
Any
Anyway,
qualifications at all,
like we
yes.
mentioned, we have a group of young people who approached us with a complaint about the conditions of service at the service centers of the telecoms, but also most importantly, they were talking about suspected failure to protect the privacy, unauthorized disclosures of data, which you have on your phones when you have sent them for repair. Our cameras went out to speak to some of these other people, and I think we have a video which I would like you to watch and see how they corroborate what these gentlemen are saying.
I'm Rogers Kamgisha. My experience with phone doctors, it wasn't a very good relationship. Before phone doctors, I had trained as a technician and worked at some place downtown for 3 years. So I wanted to start my own business. KCCA came overnight and they took the container with all my stuff. So I had an emotional breakdown for over 3 months. I wasn't looking for a job. I didn't have anything to do. I'd gone back to my mom's place. So financially I wasn't stable, and emotionally still I wasn't stable at all. Someone recommended me to try phone doctors because they had booked service centers around town. So I went there to get a job from them.
I'm called Tumusiime Richard. I came to join phone doctors way back in 2016. I got to know about phone doctor company through someone. Generally, most of these guys who come to know phone doctor, they are normally connected through friends and relatives, if I may say so. We don't apply, they don't advertise. We don't even sign a contract, meaning you are just employed illegally. We pay to be employed.
They didn't offer me any interview, but they just asked me if I have money to pay and join, because since I'd worked as a technician, they expected me to have all the skills. After paying money, I joined as a junior technician. To become a senior technician, still I had to pay more money. And also the space that I was working in, that is MTN Akasha Mall. What I would get from phone doctors is I would book for the space. Everything else would be mine. The tools to open, screwdrivers, tweezers, everything would be mine. Computer would be mine. So I would use my only tools. The company wouldn't provide any tool.
So would you treat a customer depending on the way he came, how you're dressed up, the nature of your gadget. If it's an expensive gadget, what would I charge you less? Understand? So the way you walk in would determine how much I would charge you.
First, as a junior technician, I wasn't talking to the customers directly to charge them. But when I upgraded to become a senior technician, that's when I started talking to the customers directly. But because of the money I had to pay phone doctors every month, it was too much, and it was paid every after 2 weeks. I would pay them every after 2 weeks. So I would end up exploiting the customers, getting substandard parts so that I could raise the money to pay my bosses at phone doctors.
There is an incident whereby an Indian guy came in with an iPhone 5S. He had gone to one service center. They charged him less. He suspected maybe these guys are providing like fake spares. He came at Acacia Mall. When he told me that, to me, I picked so quick, I know he has fallen into a prey. So from there and then I was like, you know what, I've gotten a meat to eat. I had to charge him to buy confidence out of him that I'm going to give him the original. But then even the spare part, I gave him the same spare part which the other guy would have given him. But still, I know I have to get something because you know your target.
With personal security, people's security, because remember you're dealing with micro devices. People carry them wherever they are. They use them whenever they want. They use them everywhere, in small spaces, bedrooms, meetings. So that means if someone gives you their device, you have their personal data at hand. And instances of like data transfer, flashing, I would use my personal computer to do all that. So that means if I did a data backup, I would be having the copy of that person. Now, your security, your data security would depend on my conscience.
I would look at it in this angle. Why would I expose someone whom I don't know, whom I don't have even a connection with? So someone would be lenient, would say, in fact, we did it in a way that we are defending a company, our company, which we use to employ us, and even the service center where we're working in. Because if a customer gets to know his data has been leaked, first of all, the first suspect would be Airtel. Who would sue Airtel, and Airtel would again come to us telling, well, why have you done this and this? So we would just say, let me keep it. First of all, it's none of my business.
Welcome back to the show. I'm sure you have been able to watch some of the young people who have gone on video to record their experiences. You have spoken in that video, and you have basically confirmed many of the things that you have been discussing here. But the viewer out there would like to know, beyond what you faced or suffered at the centers, how did a consumer or somebody requiring a repair service for a phone get affected by whatever was going on? Should anybody be bothered by how the service centers are operating if they get a good service? Did it affect the quality of the service people received? Martin?
Yes, to start with, consumers have rights. As as per the regulator, and those rights have to be observed and respected by the service provider. And the manner in which we used to to carry out our work breaches almost numerous.
For example?
For example, we would, if a client came with a software issue on their phone and the phone is not working well, we would back their phones up on our personal computers that we would take home afterward.
These were not company computers. The tools
weren't.
that you were using were your personal property.
Personal property.
So phone doctors and the centers where you work didn't provide you with the tools.
They did not provide.
So a customer walks in and you get their private information.
Yeah, private and sensitive, yes.
And put on your personal pieces. What kind of information is this? Just to explain.
Personal, there is a lot like media files, like pictures, videos, WhatsApp conversations. We would back up conversations and restore them. We had access to contacts and messages, ideally everything.
So you put all this private data of the customer who has come in a service center of Airtel or MTN on your private laptop.
Yes, correct.
Did you, as people working in the service centers, have any data protection or privacy policy that you are required to follow?
No, that's the thing, because when
Did you have?
No, we didn't.
Signed anything like data policy protection, maybe.
Yeah,
and maybe phone doctor. We never.
Confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements, those ones we did not get to sign.
So are you saying that these centers, when you walk in, you actually open yourself up? The moment you hand over your phone for repair, you have opened yourself up, everything can go.
Exactly, because when you look at devices like your phone, your personal phone, people take pictures of their properties, land titles, they have their banking information on there, they have their emails are on there. There is
so you didn't receive any training on data protection?
None.
And this practice is ongoing up to now?
Up to now. It's what we used to do. It's how we survived.
Was this known to MTN, to Airtel, or it was just known to phone doctors?
It was known to me, the way I see, because if I wasn't oriented on what I'm supposed to do, or not what I'm supposed to do, then for me I did what I'm supposed to do, but I was never told that this is wrong, this is wrong. Maybe they used to tell us, please make sure before you flash the customer's phone, make sure you back up.
Actually,
backup meaning transfer the data from the customer's phone, so that in case of anything, it's not lost.
Yeah, you can
and keep it on a private computer.
Exactly.
On laptops.
But was there a procedure on how to ensure the safekeeping of that data where you took it and the return? If, for example, you didn't return my data when you repaired my phone, was there a system of checking that risk did not occur?
No, there wasn't such an arrangement. Now, what we would do, the various, because there are numerous programs that we use to back up available to us. So what we would do, we would back the phone up and then restore the client's information and keep the information on our laptops. Meaning that if you came with an Android phone, another maybe if you came with a Samsung, and I got a Techno, I could easily restore that information on the Techno, and it would be, I would access it.
So what you're saying, Richard, is that as it is now, in the service centers of MTN, Airtel, Uganda Telecom, all the telecoms, there is actually a potential loss or a loss of data when you take your phone for repair. Is that something you're confirming?
Yeah, because once you give me your phone, I will back up your data. After back, in fact, these clients, you'll find them so happy that you have restored their data, so they wouldn't mind to reclaim their data back. So
some
you
would.
reject, yeah, some would, but
yeah.
then how sure there was nothing like an assurance that I haven't remained with any copy.
Anyway, for the viewer out there, the issue of data protection and privacy is a sensitive issue because privacy of your data and information is a right that you enjoy, and the telecom companies, as data processors, as data controllers, have got an obligation to put in place measures to ensure the security. And what these young people are saying is that, look, that is not happening anywhere at all. In the service centers, that's really cause for alarm. And now, really, what is the motivation for you to behave ethically with people's information if, as you say, you are not even paid? Did this lead to, first of all, how do you even charge? Did you have a pricing system? How do you charge for a screen or a software issue? How are you surviving
Now,
if you are not paid?
Yes, to answer that, when a client came to the service center, you would look at him and make an assessment. You look at
where?
You would
At
look
the
at the clients and probably the phone that they are using, and then you look at their address. Some you would know because they were famous people, or yeah.
So famous people are going to the service centers, hear this.
Yes,
so the
civil
famous people, what
servants.
happened to them? You charge them less?
No. In fact, if maybe like you, Fred, came to the service center and I knew you, like I know what you do, and I know the kind of lifestyle maybe that you live, and you bring a phone, your phone for maybe a screen, you have a broken screen and you need me to change that, I would assess you, and after calling the workshop, because we would get the spare parts from open market downtown.
From downtown?
Yes, the company did not import. So I would call someone from downtown and find out how much the spare part would cost. And if say they said for such and such a phone it's 300,000, I would maybe double or triple the price.
Wow. So this money that you extorted or overcharged, that the center was overcharging, is what you would remain with to survive?
Yes.
And also remain with to pay your remittance?
Yeah. Yes.
Would overcharge, let me say would overcharge for us to meet the target of our employer.
Yeah,
you are our employer. And also we saved, the little would save. But much of it was taken towards the remittance, because the remittance used to be high.
And you know, we had responsibilities, obligations, because once you took on the role of a senior technician in a service center, you worked with someone like your subordinates, we used to call them subs. And guess what? It was the responsibility of the senior technician to pay to pay the sub, to also take care of the lunch,
give him transport,
and transport.
So from this overcharging, you got lunch, you got transport, you were paying rent at home.
Yes.
Your health,
personal bills.
bills.
But the first thing would be taking paying the company remittance, and then paying your coworker because
so
they also had needs.
There, so some taxes were paid, pay as you earn or anything? NSSF?
We never.
For like...
because you're supposed to have a deduction,
yeah.
which goes there.
Yeah, but in our case, we used
but then
not
to... how could that be done? Because you are not like on a payroll. We are not paying that money.
But you are inside the Airtel or MTN service center.
Yeah, we were not on either of those people's payroll, so there was no we could
But
pay.
were you part of the staff meetings, for example, of the center?
Yes.
So you sat there as strangers?
No, we would be part of the team, and in fact, when they emphasize the fact that when a client comes to the service center, they shouldn't be able to differentiate that you are maybe from a different company, because the expected level or quality of service would have to meet the service provider's standard set requirements. So
from what you are saying, the service at the service centers of the telecom companies, from what you're saying, is not genuine, is not authentic because of these things.
It is not genuine. We use not to, because understandably, if you are earning a salary, you're supposed to pay as you earn. You're supposed to pay local service tax, and even for the remittance that we would pay on someone's personal account.
We have had issues on the social media platform of leakage of nude pictures and some very private information about people. Do you think these service centers and what you've described could be the source of these leakages?
I was approached once or twice or thrice by a magazine, a tabloid, online tabloid, because they knew what we did, because they knew the level of access we had. They approached me and wanted for me to, if maybe I found or got access to
phone from a famous person,
a celebrity or a politician with interesting content like nude pictures or fights, things like that, they offered to pay for that information, but knowing that it would trace back to me.
For you didn't.
I didn't.
But you don't rule out that other.
If I can't stop someone else. If I couldn't, then I can't say someone didn't.
Because we have different needs. If someone gets an offer for easy money when you are struggling to raise the remittance itself, it makes
and the money to survive.
Yeah, it makes you. It puts one in a difficult position to
out of desperation to do anything.
You can't.
Yes.
Richard, from your experience, because the issue of data privacy and protection very, very important. Do you think that from your experience you had access to gadgets, to phones of people maybe in the high circles, security or whatever, where actually data was also exposed? Don't you think there was a threat to national security?
Yeah, not once, not twice, not thrice. We used to get these higher end, we used to call them higher end phones, like from high profile people, the corporates. Talk of like, I remember I worked on for this Jim Wezi. I had it all. If I wanted to expose what was in his messages or anything in his phone, I had all means to expose it outside. So we had access to these corporate people. You
mentioned that you had some 3 phones you were looking at repairing for the Inspector General of Police or somebody.
Yeah, you got it through. I had access to his phone. But since we had it within ourselves that exposing such would lead you to maybe danger, but to cut it short, we had access to these high-profile people.
So don't you think the service centers can compromise our national security by the mishandling and unauthorized disclosures of information?
I think there is a very good chance that that could happen. In my case, at the service center, I used to work at MTN at Acacia Mall. We used to work on diplomats. We used to work on personnel from security agencies, the army, prisons, internal security organization, police, and we used to work on businessmen, like for example. Sudil Ruparelia, he came to the service center one time and I backed up his phone and restored it because it had a problem somewhere. He couldn't download attachments. And many other people, many ministers, civil servants, legislators.
And what you are saying, all these personalities walk into the center, seeing all the branding, believing that they are obtaining a service, a high premium quality service from the telecom company. But what we are discovering from your discussion is that actually the telecom company was not part of that service, the repair part.
It wasn't.
Though it was within their premises.
It outsourced.
But for us as members of the public, and I'm sure you out there who are watching, you cannot tell the difference. Actually, you are going into a service center for this big telecom, whereas we are discovering that they have another arrangement.
Admittedly, it was a fraudulent
Before we go for a break,
operation.
I just want to talk. This is a show that deals with counterfeits, and we know that in the telephone repair, there will be a lot of parts that have to be put.
Yes.
So the question now here is, the parts that are used for the repairs at the center, what steps were taken to ensure that they are genuine? So for example, did phone doctors or MTN or whoever procure the genuine parts? We've seen so many times they do promotions and bring some small phones. How now do we know that these were actually genuine promotion phones? Can you talk about the parts and the gadgets that were sold or used in the centers? Were they genuine? Were there guarantees to the public that this is genuine stuff?
First of all, Phone Doctors as a company did not import spare parts. It was offering technical services, but it did not import spare parts. At a certain point they did, but their parts weren't genuine, so I think they just abandoned the entire thing. Now, what we
Their
would...
parts were not genuine when they imported?
Yes, we used to have issues with them. Now, what we would rely on were spare parts from open market, like I mentioned, downtown, Mutasa Kafero. And there was a variety of products. There would be genuine, a bit of maybe second class, because first class is really expensive. It's people cannot afford. And so we would get that second class, but you would make judgment because you needed to make money, and if you over exploited or overcharged a client, they would just go somewhere else. So you would you would go to open market and get a spare part, and yeah, they install it because you give it to them. They install like a screen, and then yeah, you take it back to the client. There wasn't, I would say we used a lot of counterfeits. And I also have to point out that even the phones that the company sold on promotion, they advertise a product of the company like MTN or Airtel. But actually, there is a Chinese businessman who I think is contracted. I don't have the details of the arrangement, their association, but this guy brings in these phones, and then they are sold in the service centers. They are advertised by the company, and most of those phones, they did not meet certain standards. Clients would buy them and bring them back. They would have issues. They would run out of storage. They would crash operating systems.
When I talk about those, for us we had the like encounter that was 2018 when Airtel brought in a product from Vida. Vida. I'm called the Vida.
The phone called Vida.
It's a company called the Vida.
It's a company.
Yeah, they brought in phones, MiFis. We faced it rough because those products were all fake. Would write reports if they find out that your report is contradicting to their interests. They would say.
So who brought those phones and MiFis? Was it Airtel or Phone Doctors?
Of course, they were branded Airtel, but then deep inside, when you open, like the company, the producer would say Vida.
You know,
so they come when they are fully branded and customized, but they are fake.
What was wrong with them?
Who are fake? You can't buy a phone.
You couldn't choose them.
Then
they
after
wouldn't
like a week
work
or
consistently.
two, the battery is swollen. The screen, they just black out.
Yeah, some phones would
would
overheat.
We would face it rough with the technician because all the faults would come to us.
And so you were asked to repair these phones
at our cost.
At our cost, somehow.
At
or
our
at the
cost.
consumer's cost.
At our cost, because the consumer now, if you buy a product from the company, it's covered under warranty. If and warranty supposedly.
Warranty means the consumer
does
not pay for
does not pay for a certain time period.
We
yes,
recommend,
but when these products came back to the service centers, they would make it your responsibility, the technician. If maybe you got many or wrote reports for many to be exchanged for for the client to get a new product, it would be a sign of incompetence as a technician.
So
you would live in fear of losing your job. So you would do everything in your power to cover up and continue.
This is grim, and you guys said you have many of your friends who are still in the centers working under the same conditions.
The company employs about 60 people or over
in the various centers.
Because if when it comes to MTN, it is selected service centers within Kampala like Chagwe Road, Mukwano Mall, Forest Mall, the one that used to be at Acacia Mall, and others, up country, different parts of the country. Airtel, it is phone doctors. Now for MTN, service centers like Crested Towers, maybe Kampala Road, opposite Bank of Uganda, Clock Tower, ShopRite, those ones were under another company called Bugatech.
But then I wouldn't put that case towards. For us, we would wait what comes from Airtel. So it was Airtel or MTN responsibility to bring in the gadgets. I think MTN never took their time to. They didn't use to take time to check, are these genuine being bought? Are these spare parts being bought? Genuine phones or genuine spare? They would bring in, I think for them what all they wanted was the gadgets in, but they wouldn't take care to find out is it on
to make sales, because
does it meet UCC standards? Because most of these phones, and I think, let me take it like here in Africa we are no danger. Most of these phones, if a phone is standard, it has to regulate the frequency at which it transmits. Most of these phones don't meet those standards. Whatever frequency comes in, it will hit your ears and what. So I think these companies should take their time to make sure gadgets being brought in the service, because these
meet
people,
the standard.
These people come in to buy knowing they are buying genuine, but it's not what it is.
Especially if you go into a store branded.
Yes.
As we take a break, somebody listening to you this far might say, but those young men are just disgruntled. They were dismissed from work. Why should they believe you?
Well, I think that for everyone who has been to the service center, the client, they dealt direct with the technician. I wouldn't come on air and maybe say that I worked on Sodiru Parelia if I didn't. Yeah.
What would they gain anyway tonight?
So you're saying what you're saying is the absolute truth.
That's what it is.
And your motivation to come here is you want to contribute to an improvement.
Yes.
That's a main point. If the government can come in and regulate these companies,
the regulations are there, but I think the challenge is applying. Or operating within the set guidelines.
I think we need to take a break now. We have spoken, and we wish you listen to the interview. We've spoken to a member of the association that brings together technicians in Uganda, which has been in existence for some time. We interviewed Mr. Omar Lwasa, and he had something to tell us about the legal regulatory framework of these service centers. We shall get to learn whether these service centers are actually licensed, whether they have qualified person, and what is the policy behind all this and what needs to be done.
My name is Lwasa Omar. I'm the chairman, Uganda Electronics and Technicians Association, a body that brings together technicians, practicing technicians in Uganda. This organization was formed in 2004, and then we had challenges as to, one, who qualifies to be a technician, who has learned on job, who qualifies the technicians if they have learned on job, the challenges of who qualifies to open up a workshop, and actually what should be called a workshop. From these challenges, we felt we needed a body that can bring together technicians and make sure they are regulated. There is a very big difference between the technicians who repair electronic gadgets and the technicians or electricians who come and wire your house or you're dealing with electricity. Much as all electrical gadgets are dealing with electricity, but the two are worlds apart in that you need to know exactly what you're going to repair, not because it's using electricity, because there's got components inside which are not part of electricity, but actually are conducts that are used in electronics. Hence, you need to go for training. One of the training places we have in this country, which are training electricians and people in electronics, is Chambogo University. We're having DIT, that's the Director of Industrial Training. We have BTVET, that do train electricians and technicians. Currently, we don't have a body that is regulating technicians in this country, or that register them to go and get a license. Much as they just go to City Council, KCCA, to get their license of operating a business, in that they're operating the repair as a business. So there's no regulatory body that is actually in place to regulate technicians as to how they should be registered. You'll find a Tom, a Dickie Harold will wake up and say, I am a phone doctor. He wakes up and opens up a workshop, goes to KCCA, pays for a business license, and is operating a workshop. He's repairing phones, he's repairing TV sites. There's actually no official body set up by either government or private sector that regulates technicians in this country. As Uganda Electronics and Technicians Association, we have embarked on a sensitization drive to inform the public the need to be regulated. We are starting up TV programs which are now ongoing with Record TV. We have really come in touch with the Ministry of ICT, and we are shooting programs to enlighten the public that actually there's a lot of criminality going on in these workshops and even the telecom companies. And in regard to what SCN is doing to stop the vice, actually they have gone to the right place in stopping so many activities. One, SCN is talking about counterfeits. Now, they are trying to tell the public that actually when you import a counterfeit, you are importing e-waste. Two, it's only going to operate for 3 months and you'll end up in the workshop where there's a lot of criminality that we're talking about. Now, SCN is trying to make sure that the criminality is stopped at source, that you don't even import counterfeits.
Yes, so you've just seen that recording earlier on. I was speaking to the Association of Electronics and Technicians. That's Omar. And it's really unbelievable that we do not have, as he says, regulation of such an important sector dealing with the telephone industry. To all those authorities concerned, NITAU, UCC, ICT, Ministry, the telcos themselves, and you, the consumer, we are in this together. This is not just a blame game. It's our responsibility to clean up our country, to ensure that we enjoy good services. So remember to tune in next week for the next episode. Tune in for the next episode. This is the only show on the planet where you have a dedicated programming on fakes, products and services. See you during the next episode.